Let's kick things off with a story about a huge, massive missed opportunity. One that literally cost an entire industry its future. And what's crazy is, it wasn't because they ran out of money or their tech was bad. Nope. It was just a simple failure of thinking. So picture this. It's the early 1900s. You walk up to one of the big shot executives running the nation's railroads, and you ask them, "Hey, what business are you in?" And this is what they'd tell you. It was a confident answer, for sure, a clear answer, and a completely self-limiting one. They just saw trains, tracks, and timetables. That was their whole world. And because they defined their world so narrowly, they completely missed one of the biggest shifts in transportation history. Think about it. They could have said, "We're in the transportation business," right? That simple change would have opened their eyes to this brand new world of aviation taking off, literally. But they didn't. They were stuck, trapped inside this invisible box that they built all by themselves.
All right, so let's really dive into this whole idea of the invisible box. What does it actually look like day to day? Because let's be real, this isn't just some old story about railroad tycoons. This is about us. It's about the conventional wisdom, the unwritten rules that fence in our thinking and limit how we solve problems every single day.
Just look at the difference here. On the left, that's your classic, rigid, inside-the-box thinking. These old sayings like, "the customer is always right," or thinking that project requirements are set in stone. They kind of sound safe, right? But what they really do is just shut down the conversation. Now look at the right side. This is way more dynamic. It opens things up. It asks questions like, well, what if the customer's actually wrong and needs our help? Or what if these requirements are just a starting point for a conversation? It's a huge shift from just blindly accepting things to actually, collaborating to find the best solution.
So the big question is, how do we get out of this box? Is there like a master key? Well, actually, yeah, there is. It's a really powerful shift in how you see things, and it's called systems thinking. The easiest way to think about it is it's learning to see the whole forest instead of getting lost staring at one single tree.
So instead of taking a problem and breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces, which, by the way, is called a reductionist approach, systems thinking tells us to do the opposite. It says, hey, zoom out. It makes you ask, okay, what bigger thing is this a part of? You start focusing on how all the pieces connect, the relationships between them, and the whole point of the system in the first place, because that's almost always where the real solution is hiding. And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory, okay? This is a super practical way to solve really expensive problems. There's this famous story from a software company called TRW that shows you exactly how powerful this can be, especially when you've got millions of dollars on the line. Okay, so the team was totally trapped. They were just focused on this tiny little problem. How do we optimize the code to hit this 1-second target? But then they zoomed out. They used systems thinking. And they realized, wait a minute, the customer and their budget, they're part of the system too. So they completely reframed a problem. They stopped asking, how can we meet this impossible requirement? And started asking, how can we give the customer the best possible value for the money they actually have? And that simple little shift in perspective, it turned a potential $100 million disaster into a $30 million success. Incredible. So systems thinking is like the master key, for sure, but it's not the only tool you need. Let's actually build out a proper toolkit with a few more ways of thinking that can help us smash down the walls of that invisible box. Each one is perfect for a different kind of problem. First up, we've got lateral thinking. Okay, this is the one you pull out when you are just completely stuck. You know that feeling when you're just banging your head against the wall trying the same thing over and over? The guy who came up with this, Edward de Bono, had a great way of putting it. Stop digging the same hole deeper. Instead, you move sideways and start digging a brand new hole somewhere else. It's the perfect way to break a deadlock when you need totally new ideas, not just a slightly better version of your old one. All right, next in the toolkit is design thinking. This is your go-to when you're building something for people. It's all about putting the human experience right at the center of everything. You start with empathy, really understanding the person you're designing for. It's not about what's technically possible, it's about what people actually want and need. And the secret weapon here is prototyping, building rough versions of your ideas so you can see them, touch them, and figure out what works and what doesn't super fast. And then, for those moments that call for something truly radical, you've got disruptive thinking. Now, this isn't about just making a slightly better mousetrap. No way. This is about creating something that makes the old mousetraps completely irrelevant. The classic example, right? Netflix versus Blockbuster.
You use this kind of thinking when your goal is to completely flip the script, upend the status quo, and invent a whole new future for an industry. So the big takeaway here is that there's no single right way to think. It's just like a carpenter, you know? They don't just have a hammer, they've got a whole toolkit. A really good problem solver is the same way. They have a bunch of different mental models. The real magic, the real skill, is being able to look at a problem and know exactly which tool to pull out of the box. Okay, so we've got this awesome toolkit. But so what? What are we actually building with it? Well, the ultimate goal of escaping that invisible box isn't just about fixing the problems we have today. It's about creating something totally new. It's about achieving real, meaningful innovation. You know, the legendary management guru Peter Drucker had such a powerful way of looking at this. For him, innovation wasn't some magical lightning bolt from the sky. It wasn't about some lone genius having a eureka moment. Nope. For him, it was a job. It was a discipline. It was a process you could actually follow. And that is such an empowering idea, isn't it? It means you don't have to just sit around and wait for inspiration to magically strike. Drucker basically said you can go out and hunt for opportunities to innovate, actively, purposefully, systematically. It's a skill you can learn, a process you can practice, and a mindset you can build over time. And Drucker's whole approach has these really clear principles. It's all about focusing on the opportunity, not getting paralyzed by the risk. He tells us to be on the lookout for change and then pounce on it. And, this is a big one, don't try to build some giant, crazy, complex thing right out of the gate. Start small, stay focused, and aim to make a real difference in the world. All right, so we've covered a lot. We've seen the trap, that invisible box. We've found the master key, which is systems thinking. And we've even started to fill out our toolkit with some other powerful ways to think. So now let's bring it all home. Let's make this about you and your world. So this is the real takeaway. The question I want to leave you with is this. Think about a challenge you're dealing with right now. Could be at work, a personal project, anything. What's your version of we're in the railroading business? What's the invisible box that's limiting your thinking? And now that you have this new toolkit, which tool are you going to use to take that first step outside of it? Because, sometimes the next great idea starts with just asking one simple but totally different question.